to around the region. Now, when we were joined at the route by singer-songwriter Cecile Doo-Kingue, I got the chance to do some behind-the-camera work, and one of my co-workers, April Valeroso, was kind enough to go in front of the camera and interview the very talented Cecile.
Hello everyone, I'm April and I'm here with singer-songwriter Cecile Doo-Kingue. Thank you for joining me today.
My pleasure.
So Cecile, you perform in French and English. You're born in New York, your family's from Cameroon. You've lived in the States, you've lived in France, you're now settled in Montreal. How has all these different mix of cultures, I guess, influenced your music?
Well, it's each culture is part of who I am, right? So inevitably, they're each gonna find their way into my guitar playing, into my songwriting. So whether it's by language or by influences, like from the States, I grab all things that are music, right? Blues, soul, jazz, all the music that inspired me as a guitar player comes from the States, and from the French you get the more grammar, rational, lovey-dovey kind of stuff that I don't do, but that gets translated by the language. Cameroon, it's rhythm, it's also musically melodic rhythm actually. So all those aspects end up in my music. Yeah, it's kind of hard to exclude any of them because they're all an integral part of me.
And speaking of influences and inspirations for writing your music, you mentioned that you don't write lovey-dovey stuff. What are your what are your musical influences? What inspire you? Where do you get your inspiration to write?
Life in general, you know, I'm more of a biographical kind of writer, so it's essentially my experiences that I talk about. I can't talk for anybody else but me, right? Some songwriters are more storytellers, and they can imagine all sorts of wonderful stories. For me, it's I'll spew out the good and the bad of what I live and of what I feel, and it's my way of exercising actually all of that. Yeah.
Because you say you get a lot of your emotions out in all the songs that you write, do you find that, it helps you? It's a good release. Like, emotionally, are you generally a happy person? When you're angry at someone, you can get all that anger out. And
You know, I was a booze and pill baby, right? So I think that made me very chill. No, but I tend to not express my feelings in real time. So the guitar especially, and now songwriting, is my way of being able to, to externalize what I usually can't say in person.
and speaking of like artists, is there any artists that you look up to that influenced your style? Because I know you get it from everywhere you've lived, but
There are a bunch really. The first one is actually my brother JC, who gave me my first guitar and who I wanted to actually imitate when I first started. And he introduced me to blues, so I got into the Three Kings: Freddie King, B.B. King, Albert King, and Gatemouth Brown, T-Bone Walker, all of that. Eventually, I got to know about the women players as well, which are often forgotten, right? When you think of guitar greats or whatever else. So I started checking out Sister Rosetta Tharpe and all sorts of wonderful forgotten players, songwriting wise. I mean, there's the Tracy Chapmans, the Stings, the Keb Mo's, so many wonderful artists who moved me. So they're all influences, and even unknown or lesser known artists like a bunch of indie artists like Cindy Dwell, Trisha Foster, Brie Nielsen, Gabrielle Papillon, that I've been fortunate to meet, the United Steelworkers of Montreal. Everyone I meet influences me in one way or another, and it comes out in the writing for sure.
I'm glad you brought up Trisha Foster. I saw a video and you were drumming for her. So what other instruments do you play? Because I know we've already established that you play guitar. You got it from your older brother. Yeah. So yeah, what other instruments do you play?
Actually started playing drums when I was working on Freedom Calling, because I actually borrowed cymbals from a great drummer friend of mine, and he just gave me a kit. I'm like, I don't want the kit, I want the cymbals. And he's like, yeah, well, if you take the cymbals, you take the kit. So I'm like, okay. So I started playing, and I fell in love with the drums. So that was 2009. And I've been playing since, and I play bass as well, a bit of piano. Yeah, try to open my mind and grow, right? Because the more you learn something, the more you grow. So yeah.
Speaking of great drummers, you've worked with Bernard Purdie, who, I was looking him up, and he's worked with James Brown, Aretha Franklin, Miles Davis, the Rolling Stones. He's been in the industry for over 50 years. What is it like to work with someone of such high caliber?
You know, it's amazing because it's someone who moved and influenced me just as a listener. You know, like so many albums that I love, he was drumming on, and you know, as a rhythm player, there are musicians that you look up to and that you're like, oh, one day I'd love to play with such and such, but you figure that it's never really in your realm of possibility, right? And then you get a call saying, hey man, Bernard Purdie is in town and he's working with Michelle Sweeney. Are you free for the session? And you're like, hell yeah. It's like never in a million years would I have imagined to be able to share a stage or record with him. So that was amazing.
So very talented and yet so very humble. And coming up after the break, Cecile shares some of the difficulties and struggles she's had to come up against in both her career and her personal life. Please stay with us.